Welcome to our introduction to Mass Apply Receivables for Microsoft Dynamics GP. Today we're going to show you how you can avoid the pain and suffering of having to apply many documents with our Mass Apply Receivables product. So once you install a licensed version of our product, you'll have this screen where you can process applying documents several different ways. So the first example, we're going to show how you can import specific import apply information. And that apply information is really just 4-column CSV file that has the apply from document number, the apply to document number, a sequence number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way down, and then the apply amount. So if we go to look for a import file, we're going to pull up this particular file that we've prepared here. And if I show you this, you'll see that it's got the apply from document, the apply to document for invoice 2001, 2002, 2003. So if we have one payment made, maybe we do a wire transfer, an ACH payment, or we have some sort of payment that we've entered, and it's posted unapplied, and then we have a bunch of invoices that we want to apply against. You can see there's 1, 2, 3 is the sequence number, and then these are the apply amounts in the 4th column. So pretty easy to generate this from Excel. So we're going to just import that file. We're going to clear out anything that was in the temp table before we import the new file. A couple of other features to notice on here: we can convert negative apply amounts, and it will automatically create credit memos that will represent those negative apply amounts. We also can import negative apply amounts if we are actually, and this should be one or the other, right? So if I convert negative apply, then you can see this is marked out, and if I checkbox allow negative applies, then this one is. So you have one or the other. In this case, we're not going to do either. We're just going to bring in and clear out the original import. But this could be hundreds of thousands of records for multiple customers, multiple apply from documents against many apply to documents in this particular 4-column file. Once we've imported that, we could import additional files and just not check the replace, and those would append in the temp table to the previously imported. So some organizations will have multiple people working on different files, maybe different classes of customers, and that information can be appended throughout the day. And build up that list that we're then going to preview and process. So the preview and process is designed for a single user to accomplish. It's not meant for multiple people to do the preview and mass apply, because we have temp tables that are not designed for multi-user. So in this case, we have a password to unlock the preview and the mass apply feature here. A couple of other things to note: although I have it restricted to just the customer that we're doing the imports for, you don't have to do this. You could have it always default to the first and last customer in the setup of your user preferences. We also can restrict which documents. In this case, I've got them wide open because we're demoing the import apply information, and we don't want the document ranges to restrict and prevent any of the imported apply information coming in. So I'll do the preview. And what the preview is doing is pulling information from the open receivables into our temp tables, and then walking through applying what we've asked it to apply to verify that there's enough open amounts for those applies that we're telling it to do. So we can see here that the 3 imported records is going to be valid that there's enough on the invoices for those apply amounts that we're telling it to apply. If there was a variance, then you would see a variance on the preview report. And then after this point, once we are good with that and it ties with what we want in terms of the apply from and the apply to, we can go ahead and click the process mass apply. Now, a couple of other features before I do that I want to highlight. If you want short pays, so if there are any invoices in this list that we imported, if any of them are going to have an amount remaining, we have a couple of different ways we can handle that. One could be an auto write-off within a certain threshold. So we do have the ability to check and say auto write-offs, and anything less than $5, go ahead and automatically write it off at the time as it's doing the apply. The other feature is after it does all the applies, if there's an invoice amount remaining from those invoices, we may want to have it clear out, create a credit memo to clear out the original invoice. And we can populate that credit memo with the payment and the invoice that resulted in the short pay amount remaining. We can derive the credit memo number from the invoice number and just tack on a suffix at the end. And then a lot of organizations want to research those short pays. So they'll create them as a debit memo. And this allows the system to automatically create the credit memo, create the debit memo. And the credit memo will have an invoice populated in one of the fields that allows us to run the link docs only without imported, and will automatically apply all of those credit memos to the invoices that were related to that short pay. So we do have that ability to kind of automatically create a batch of credit memos and debit memos. You post those, and then you can run this routine without using imported apply information, and it'll find those posted credit memos and apply them to the invoice that is specified in the PO number field of the credit memo. All right, so we're going to go back to our import, and we're not going to generate these because these are going to fully apply these invoices. At this point now, we're going to go ahead and process the mass applying of the imported remittance information. So we're going to go ahead and say yes, mass apply. And it will generate a report for us. And if there's any exceptions, it checks on the imported to see whether or not they actually were applied correctly after the fact. So we can see that we have the apply and no exceptions. And if we go and look at that customer, and let me just type it, test 3. Scroll down, and we can see that this payment is now fully applied. And if we go to the invoices, we'll see that the invoice has the reference to the payment there as well. And they are fully applied. Now, there's a couple of other ways that this can be run. So not only can we handle importing specific one-to-many apply information, like I mentioned, if there are embedded documents, so the easiest way to show this is probably to expand our list of customers from Aaron Fitz to World Enterprises. And we're going to say, look for any documents that have an embedded apply to document in the field of the apply from document. So in this case, we can see there's a test 8 and payment 277 is referencing invoice T1001. And I want to show you that. So if we go look at test 8, and we look at this particular payment and we drill down on the payment, you'll see that in the payment, there's a reference in the comment field of the cash receipt that references this invoice. And so just by the payment or the receivable or the return or the credit memo, if a return or credit memo has an invoice in the PO number field here, and same thing with returns, if there's an invoice here, then it will automatically find it and apply it, just like it did with that payment. So the PO number on the transaction, like the credit memo and the return, is the same field as the comment field on the cash receipt. And if it is storing that information in there, it'll find that invoice and it'll check to see whether or not that invoice exists. And if it does, then it can automatically apply against that particular document. And then we can post that. Now, the other thing that we can deal with is auto apply without any kind of reference. So if we uncheck link docs, you'll see that the auto apply is now checked. And this can be just the entire range of receivables, oldest to newest, based on document number. It can be based off of a document number prefix match. So if you only want the mass auto apply to happen when documents for the same vendor are beginning with a 3-digit code or a 3 prefix code like ABC for the first 3 characters, then we can say, go ahead and auto apply based on a document number prefix match where the length of the document number prefix is 3. Additionally, we can control whether we're only going to auto apply credit memos or returns or payments. We can choose just to use, say, credit memos and returns, or maybe just credit memos, or all 3. And then national accounts logic, if we have parent customers and child customers and we want either the linked or the auto apply to use parent customer apply from documents against child apply to documents, then we have that ability to do so from the national accounts logic when that's checked. Additionally, we can have the apply date come from the user date in GP, or it can come from the apply from document. We do have the ability, if you want to exclude really big document numbers, we can exclude out maximum document number field there. We can restrict the range. Say we're doing all the customer range, but we want to restrict by a customer class. We can select a particular customer class and then only do the mass auto apply on that. All these different settings can be pre-configured with templates that will then refresh this particular screen and have all the selections of a particular template in the setup of templates. We can also restrict rather than a range of customers, we can just import a list. So if we say restrict customers to an imported list, we can import a single column CSV file that has the customer ID in a single column that perhaps we took out a smart list or something of that nature. And we can restrict the auto apply to specific documents. So if we're doing the mass auto apply, we may not be doing it off of a prefix. We might be doing it off of a list of document numbers. Both apply from and apply to document numbers would need to be in this list and be imported. And so we can import that specific list of documents that we want the auto apply to be restricted to. And additionally, if you don't have an integration tool like Smart Connect or Integration Manager, and you would like to be able to not only import the apply information, but import perhaps cash receipts or credit memos, returns, invoices, or customers, we have specific CSV file specs that then use eConnect directly in terms of the eConnect store procedures. So we like to say this is the fastest import tool that's validated by eConnect because we're not going through multiple layers of programming. We're going directly to the SQL stored procedures. So the other thing that we can do when we're dealing with the mass auto apply, we can expand it to the entire customer range. And many of our customers run it this way. They just want oldest to newest invoices applied automatically. Some get tricky and they restrict it to a particular invoice date range versus a credit memo or payment date range. But then we can run this preview for our entire receivables for what this auto apply is going to look like. And you can see that it's found a bunch of documents for a bunch of different customers and is going to auto apply those. If we process and say process the auto applies, then that will process all of those documents that it found oldest to newest. We run that. And you can see it's going through and processing, doing the applies of all of the documents. Let's go look at the transactions. So if we look at that test 8, because test 8 was on that list, we can see that test 8 is now fully applied. And we can see the payment against that T1001.